Welcome to the Vibrant Visibility Podcast. Being visible as a soul-led business owner isn't just about the practical strategies, marketing tips, and tech systems. It's also about the internal systems, the safety of your nervous system, the somatic connection, and the embodiment of being a badass CEO that will support you in all of the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. And I'm here to share all of that with you on this show. I'm your host, Shawnee Arsenault, a registered nurse turned visibility coach and business mentor for heart-centered coaches and healers. I created a six-figure coaching practice in my first year of business and scaled to multiple six figures my second year, all in the middle of getting pregnant with my first baby and becoming a new mama. If I can do this entrepreneurship thing, I know you can too. If you're ready to learn how to be a CEO in a way that feels aligned with your heart, become a lighthouse for the people that you're meant to serve, feel free to authentically express yourself and be a magnet for success, and grow your coaching business in a way that is sustainable and fulfilling, I can't wait to be in your ear along for the ride. Hello, my friends. How are you? I am so excited to be back on the podcast today. It's been a while, and I actually wanted to talk about my little hiatus and just give you guys some encouragement as well to take a break if you need to take a break. If you are anything like me, if you are anything like the clients that I work with, you are likely a perfectionist, a high achiever, someone who has a really great work ethic. I think for people in the helping profession, whether you are a nurse, a therapist, a doctor, a physical therapist, a massage therapist, like whatever you do, if you're listening to this and you are in the healing space in any capacity, you likely have a really strong work ethic, and you make it really important to hold fast to your commitments, especially whenever it comes to helping other people. And I think whenever we become entrepreneurs, we can get this kind of like workhorse mentality, and we feel like we have the need to be on all the time, be present all the time, be visible all the time, always be marketing. And if we slow down, if we take a break, then we're going to lose all of our momentum. And I want to give you guys some encouragement today to honor the rest, honor the pause. I'll talk a little bit about what's been going on in my world behind the scenes and why I took that 2-week hiatus. And what I'm hoping this does is normalize the need for rest, right? Like just acknowledging that we are all human beings. None of us are robots. And it is so, so important to take time off. um, so I'll give you kind of a rundown of what actually happened these last 2 weeks. These last 2 weeks, I pretty much ghosted my online community, right? Like I didn't post anything on socials. You'll kind of see on my Instagram, like nothing for the past 2 weeks. No emails, maybe like one or two emails, no podcast, no Zoom calls. My entire schedule was cleared off. Like I took a break from everything. And the only thing that I did in between that break was support the clients that I'm already working with through email or messenger. I have a Telegram channel open for all of the clients that I'm currently working with. And so that's all that I did over the last 2 weeks was support my current clients that are paying me, and maybe communicating with my team every now and then to kind of help some of the things run in the background. And the first piece here is I want to talk about the reality of taking that break. It was absolutely necessary because I feel like up until a certain point, probably the very beginning of the year, I felt so tired. I needed a fucking break, And my son is now almost 2 years old, and he's got a lot of, while he's a lot more independent than he used to be when he was a newborn, I mean, there's a whole nother set of challenges with him as far as behavior and just tantrums. And, there's a lot happening with that. And then we had a childcare switch in the middle of all of that. Our nanny left because she moved to the other side of the country, and we had to scramble to find another nanny. So there was a lot happening, and I was starting to approach burnout. Now, in the past, I have been notorious for pushing through those signs of burnout and just going and continuing to fall into that cycle of pushing myself so hard that my body eventually shuts down. But because I really prioritize somatic work and being super aware of, you know, what my body is telling me and what my body actually needs, what my mind needs, what my soul needs. I started to notice the signs. I started to notice that I was getting like really moody, especially with my family. I was feeling disconnected from my family. I noticed myself wanting to numb out a lot and just like mindlessly scroll on TikTok or, you know, I would constantly have my headphones in listening to a book and ignoring all of my other responsibilities. I felt really creatively blocked, like, every time I sat down to write new content, like, nothing came to mind, nothing, and it was apparent to me that, okay, I'm starting to approach burnout. I'm not to the point where I'm totally wanting to shut down, but proactively, I think I need to build in some kind of rest, some kind of, like, massive pause so that I can reset and come back with a little bit more clarity, a little bit more fire. So that's exactly what I did. I literally cleared my schedule. If you look at my calendar for the last 2 weeks before today, my schedule was completely empty. I had no Zoom calls. I maybe had one meeting with my team, and that's it. And then I would have, you know, a couple blocks of time during each day to respond back to messages from my clients. And then everything else was like open for whatever I wanted to do, you know, traveling, spending time with my son, going on dates with myself, just getting back into things that brought me joy, that brought me happiness, because I have fallen into a pattern in the past of, you know, feeling like I don't deserve that, feeling guilty for taking that time just for me and being a little bit selfish. And I've quickly realized that the earlier I can catch that and the earlier I can put something proactively in place to help me just kind of like reconnect with me, I am less likely to feel resentment towards my business, towards my family, towards all of my other responsibilities. And so whenever my body gives me those signs, whenever I start to notice that moodiness, whenever I start to kind of feel all of those sensations and feel that kind of like emotional detachment, I have an avoidant attachment style. So whenever I start to notice that I'm trying to push things away and that I'm trying to not feel certain things, I listen. That's like a sign for me to go deeper and be really intentional about where I spend my energy for the next week or 2 moving forward. And let me tell you, this is something that has been in the works for 4 years, right? Or maybe even more than that. Like before I started my business, it was probably in the works too whenever I was in my nursing career. And I want to normalize the pause. It's really hard for me still to appreciate a pause and to build in rest into my schedule. It's still really hard for me, not nearly as hard as it used to be, but I think one of the gifts of being able to go on a maternity leave a couple years ago and having so much support built in during that phase of my life, it really allowed me to see how impactful rest can be, how impactful it can be to really detach and to let go of the mindset that your business is going to fall apart if you step back. I really had to let go of the reins whenever I was on maternity leave and trust that people would remember me, that people would still find the work and the content that I put out there really potent. And yeah, there was a level of trust that I had to develop whenever I was on maternity leave a couple years ago. And it really was one of the best things ever that prepared me to be able to take the past 2 weeks off and not feel guilty about it. Or to, you know, build in a week off every month or have a light schedule for a week every month proactively. That's part of my normal business routine now. I have at least 1 week every single month where I have a pretty light schedule and I don't overbook myself. And I try not to overbook myself in general, but, you know, really, really putting boundaries around my schedule and protecting it. I'm a big fan of the idea that your business doesn't run you. You don't run your business. You are in relationship with it, right? So that's why I think that building in rest, especially proactively, is not a weakness. It's not a risk. It's actually an act of self-leadership, right? It's, you know, when we have that pressure to always be on and constantly show up, even though we don't have the energy for it, even though we have like literally nothing left to give, that's such an outdated way of operating. It's a very, like, masculine way of operating. There's nothing that you owe your business. There's nothing that your business owes you. You are in relationship with it. You have to be willing to communicate your needs. Your business will communicate its needs. It's almost like it's another entity, right? And I know that's kinda weird to think about, like, your business is not some living, breathing thing, but it kind of is. Like, if you are going down, like, the spiritual route here and you have this spiritual connection to your business, to the work that you do, I'm a firm believer that there's a relationship that needs to happen, that needs to be nurtured. And it's not just like this transactional, you do this one thing and then your business creates these results, right? Like it's more of an emotional connection, it's more of a fluid thing. And sometimes, whenever we build in rest, I sometimes mistake it for numbing out or avoiding, right? And where I can start to tell the difference between what is avoidant and what is just pure rest and listening to my body and listening to my heart and taking that time that I need to refill myself, to nurture myself and nourish my soul, my creativity. Where I can tell the difference is the intentionality behind it, right? What is the intention? Is the intention to not feel something? Is the intention to run away from something that's hard? Or is the intention to come back home to myself? Is the intention to reignite a fire? You know, that's one of the reasons why I took these 2 weeks off is I felt that fire kind of dwindling and I needed to do something to like relight that spark. And when my creativity feels depleted, whenever my creative energy feels depleted, there are certain things that I think of that I always go to that I know are going to bring me back to life, you know? Things like reading, things like creative writing, things like going outside and spending some time in nature, things like going on dates with myself. Sometimes I'll just literally go walk around the mall or the store and I don't even have to buy anything. I can just window shop. That's one of my favorite things to do. That's one of my husband and I's favorite things to do is just go to the mall and like window shop and pretend like we don't have any limits on our budget. Like if we had all the money in the world, what would we buy here? You know, like those are the types of things that I try to do whenever I schedule that time off. And so there is a difference. There is a difference between rest that's intentional and something that's avoidant or numbing out, right? And only you are gonna know that difference. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you, like, what the telltale signs are that you're trying to numb out or avoid versus being intentional about rest. Like, you really only know that, you know, and it's very subjective. It's not something that we can, like, measure on a general scale. It's so individualized to each person. So I just encourage you, if you're gonna use breaks, if you are going to schedule in time to detach from your business to make sure that you are living your life outside of being an entrepreneur, use that break time well, right? And really just kind of allow yourself that permission to get in touch with what you actually need, right? Is it solitude? Do you need to spend some time just by yourself? Do you need to go on a solo trip? Do you need 4 hours of uninterrupted time? Do you need, you know, do you need some time with a friend that you haven't seen in a long time? Maybe just doing nothing. Do you need a date night with your partner? Do you need to spend some quality time with your family? Whatever that is, getting back into hobbies that you forgot about or finding new hobbies, right? Whatever that is, like creativity needs room to breathe. Okay. And if you are suffocating, if you feel like you can't breathe, give yourself some space, right? You as a human being have the gift of giving yourself space. You can make the choice to rearrange your schedule. My clients were all super understanding that we were off for 2 weeks. And honestly, some of them probably didn't even notice because I was also messaging them in between and that, you know, I was allowed to keep that boundary with myself that I feel good. I feel energetically aligned with supporting my clients through message or through email. But I'm not going to have any like actual coaching calls this week. That's something that you can kind of figure out on your own, like what those boundaries are and what those limits are. And just realizing that, like, you don't owe the internet anything, right? I ghosted for 2 weeks, and I came back, and there were some people who didn't even notice, and there are other people that were like, "Yeah, I did notice, but, like, I love that for you," you know? So your audience is going to be supportive of you if you are really transparent about where you're at. If you are on the verge of burnout and you are trying to hide it by, coming up with all of this content that's not genuine and posting it, like people can kind of sense when you're not being real. And it didn't feel real to me to plan out content to go out while I was on that 2-week break because sometimes you just don't have anything to say, and I wasn't feeling that creative spark, and I didn't have anything to say, so it didn't feel in alignment for me to put out stuff that just felt not genuine. And so I would rather put out quality content that actually really resonates with me and represents where I'm at within my own inner work and with the work that I do with my clients versus just pumping out content like a machine. Like I said earlier, we're not robots, right? We are human beings. And so if you can approach visibility in a way that honors yourself as a human being and the fact that we can't always be on all the time, our energy comes and goes, it comes in waves. It varies from day to day, from hour to hour, from week to week, from month to month. So just giving yourself permission to disappear if you really need to. I did something very similar to this 2-week break while I was on maternity leave. I barely showed up on social media. I didn't really plan ahead to have content post while I was out on maternity leave, and it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big deal. Whenever you come back, people will welcome you back. People will be excited that you're back. And then I also think that you set an example for the people that follow you, for the audience that is watching you to be able to set their own boundaries in their life just like that. We lead by example as coaches, as entrepreneurs who serve others, we lead by example. And so that is just a short little piece of encouragement, piece of wisdom that I have for you today to give yourself room to breathe. Your business will always be there for you. You'll always be able to go back to it and pick back up right where you left off. You're not going to be losing steam, you're not losing momentum, your audience hasn't forgotten about you. You're allowed to take time for yourself to process. Maybe you're going through something really hard. Maybe you're going through a really difficult season. Maybe maybe you're like me. Maybe you just needed a fucking break. So take the break, right? Take the break and don't be afraid to take the break because you're afraid that people are going to forget about you or that you're going to lose momentum in your business. Because I promise you, if you take the break and you use it well, it's actually going to accelerate the momentum you will have in your business. So if your soul is craving a breath of fresh air and a space to kind of reignite that creative energy that maybe you've been missing for a while, and giving yourself permission to just slow down, to let go, to have some fucking fun. My friend Rachel, Dick, and I are hosting a retreat together in May called the Playful Soul Retreat. It's May 15th through 18th here in the Pacific Northwest. We still have some spots available, so I will put the link in the show notes for all of you guys to sign up for that. It is going to be so, so fun. I cannot wait. I really hope to see you guys there. I am glad to be back after this 2-week long break, and I am sending so much love to all of you. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If this was helpful for you, subscribe to the show to make sure you're always in the loop when a new episode is out. And I would love to invite you to join me in the free Visibility and Tech Support for Coaches community, where we hang out and chat about all things visibility, tech, systems, and heart-centered business building. I regularly share tips and tutorials and go live every now and then, and it's just nice to be in a community with other like-minded coaches and healers. So you can join this free space at alignwellco.com/community, and I can't wait to see you there.